Good afternoon and welcome to this Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce Business Lunch. This afternoon we've got with us Anna McKinley from Anna McKinley Coaching. Anna, nice to see you again.
Great to be here, Helen. And look, great to have the chance to catch up with everybody.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Anna. So Anna is a bronze partner with the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce and sponsors our small business forum. So we have evening function normally with a large number of small businesses, don't we, Anna? And have speakers and that sort of thing. So it's always a good event. So this afternoon we're going to look at some of the challenges around building resilience and adapting to change in this brand new environment that we find ourselves in, and certainly an area that Anna is very skilled in, and I'm sure we'll find the information you have, Anna, very useful. So welcome and thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
Hey, look, you're absolutely welcome, and I was really happy to have this opportunity. So look, I do have some slides that I will share online, but I'd just like to talk through some stuff with you all, and really to start with something that I've been seeing a lot with people, and sort of the theme for today, if you like, is getting beyond surviving in this environment. There is a real irony about what's going on right now, which is all around this resilience piece. So Helen, what that irony is, and for everyone there, there's a lot of stress going around, believe it or not, a lot of anxiety and a lot of uncertainty for businesses, for business owners, a lot of uncertainty about how this is going to play out, what will level 3 look like, how long we'll be in it for, when will we return back to normal, and what will that be like? So there's a lot of stuff in there which is creating stress and anxiety. The irony around that, and I'm going to share with you some ideas about this, but when we are in a state of stress, and I'd like to talk with you a bit about this today, actually, what it actually means. But when we're in a state of stress, it creates a number of what's the right word? Physiological changes in our bodies, which are designed for a particular reason. But some of the side effects of it are in terms of how we think. We get laser focused, and our brains actually shut down access to some really core functions, which include things like our ability to find new solutions to problems, our ability to think strategically, our ability to think creatively. And the stress response also shuts down or reduces our immune system, believe it or not. Now, these are all things that actually we really want to be able to tap into in today's world, right? And to be able to deal with the situation that we're finding that we're in. So what I'd like to share with you today are some information and some tools around it. So I do have a slideshow here, which I am just going to share with you. So there we go. And it's all about getting beyond surviving. And the idea is to have some tools to get more into a state where we can actually be able to adapt and thrive in our new normal. All right. I've talked about the great big irony around what happens when we're stressed. So the stress response reduces our ability to find new solutions, our capacity to think strategically and to innovate, and our immune function. And these are all things that we want. So what I want to share with you today is some more stuff about stress, how we can handle it, and also some ways we can shift the way we respond to it. And I'd like to talk a little bit about what it actually is too, because often we misunderstand it. So how does that sound to you, Helen? I'll take that's all good. So look, let's talk a little bit more about what stress is, because even before COVID, this is something that we talk about a lot, comes up for a lot of people, especially for business owners. So much going on. We've got to be adaptable. We've got so many things on the go. And right now, we've added all the uncertainty to the mix. So stress, believe it or not, is actually a response which we evolved to help us. I know it really doesn't feel like it a lot, right? And when we talk about stress in today's world, often we talk about it as a negative thing. In fact, most of the time it's, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed. But actually, stress is something we evolved to help us. But we evolved it to help us in certain kinds of situations. And we talk about this as the fight-flight response. Stress is different from anxiety and worry. Stress is our body's physiological response from a kind of psychological point of view. It's how our body responds to external change, basically. And it can be good change, or it can be negative change, or it can just be change that we're uncertain about and we detect a threat. And the stress response evolved to help us survive in situations that needed an immediate response and generally were life-threatening in some way. That obviously was a long time ago, but we still have the same physiological things that happen. So in the situations that were life-threatening, the stress response would kick in, we'd see something, we'd think a thought in response to it, oh, goodness, there's something there, it could be a threat to me. And that would kick in a whole lot of chemical reactions in our body. And this is what happens. We get some chemicals released that put us into this response. Our brain gets, as I said before, very, very focused. We shut down our propensity to look at things from different angles and let's look at the options and what are different solutions. Because if we're having to act to survive in the now, that's not actually going to help us a lot. What we want to be able to do is get tunnel focused on doing whatever it takes to survive right now. And in terms of a physiological point of view, the stress response sort of shifts resources and energy to certain things like our heart and our muscles and away from our core organs and reduces our immunity, because those are all things that use up energy, which we could use in the moment to survive. So stress is about giving us the energy to be at our best to survive in a short-term situation. It's not designed as a long-term ongoing thing. And so chronic stress is harmful. Stress becomes harmful to us if it's ongoing and if we misuse it in some way. I say misuse, means we're not actually using the energy and those hormones and getting them out of our system in some way. It sort of all builds up, and that's where we get health issues. And if it's ongoing, that's where it can affect our ability to respond because we don't have access to all our resources. Another interesting thing as well is that there's research that shows that stress, even ongoing stress, tends to be harmful if we believe it's harmful. But if we believe it's here to assist us, actually it's not necessarily harmful, even if it's ongoing. I've got a note there, Kelly McGonigal has done a great TED talk and other talks on that topic. So one of the mindset shifts that I want to encourage in you today is to change the way we think about stress. Stress is actually designed to be your friend, to help you deal with short-term situations. We want to make sure that we're using it appropriately and that we're finding ways to handle it or resolve the body chemistry that comes with it if we're in an ongoing situation. And I want to give you some tools for that. So one last thing, though, is to distinguish, as I said, between stress and between anxiety and worry. Stress is the physiological response. It's the sensations we get. It's when my heart rate goes up. Oh, I've got this presentation to do, or I've got this thing to happen. I've got this hard conversation I've got to have. And our heart rate goes up and we get laser focused and we maybe get flutters in our stomach and there's various other physical symptoms that we get. That's different from anxiety and worry. Anxiety and worry are about us mostly projecting into the future and looking at the what ifs. What if this happens? Or what if this doesn't happen? What if this thing continues? What if, what if, what if? And we put ourselves into that future that may or may not happen. And then our mind thinks, wow, this is happening. And we start to get that stress response happening. Okay. But anxiety and worry generally exist in the future and sometimes in the past, but not generally right now. Okay, in the moment we're all okay, right? So that's something that's important to remember as well. So I'd like to run through with you some strategies that you can use to handle stress. Obviously this is just scratching the tip of the iceberg, but these are all things that can help you if you're feeling some stress, anxiety, worry, money stress, stress about the business, general uncertainty around what's going to happen. Here's a little menu you can pick from to help you handle it. One of the important things is to remember that it actually all starts in our head, right? It starts with what we think. And although it sometimes doesn't feel like it, we do actually have some control over what we think, all right? So what happens is something happens externally, like COVID is a great example. We might have another sort of notification from staff or from Radio New Zealand or from the government about yet another statistic or another case. And we go, oh, there's another one. When is this ever going to stop? And we have that thought, and that creates that stress response. Okay, so when this happens, one of the really powerful things to do, this is a technique that comes out of cognitive behavioral therapy, that's a field of psychology. And it's called the Abcb Technique. And basically what it recognizes is that A stands for an activating event of some kind. Something happens in our external world. The C stands for our consequential emotional feeling. The consequence is that I feel stressed, frustrated, angry, worried, anxious, whatever it might be. But what this recognizes is that actually there's something in between A and C, and that is the B. That's us. That is what we believe about the activating event. I see that little headline and I think, oh, this is just going to keep going on forever. I have a belief that it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. And then the consequential emotion is worry, because I'm thinking, and if it keeps going, what's that going to mean for my business? Will we ever get back to normal? I've got these employees that I have to pay, and even with help from the government, it's all a bit difficult. And what's this going to mean for their families? And they've got kids, and we can go down that rabbit hole of stuff that might never happen. And we're taking our mind with us, and it's going right stress response. So how can we shift it? It's by changing the B. We have control over the B. We can change our beliefs around it. Okay, it takes a little bit of discipline and sometimes some imagination. Okay, so we can look at it and we can go, well, you know, it's largely still the same clusters, so we've got it under control. Isn't it good that we responded as quickly as we did as a nation, and that everyone's been doing their part so that the numbers are as small as they are? At least we know what's going on. You know, we can change the beliefs around that. And that's what the D is about. The D is about recognizing that our emotional response is just in relation to our beliefs and not necessarily the event itself. It's what we're thinking about it. And when we look at what we're thinking, we can choose, firstly, to acknowledge that it's just a belief. It's not necessarily true. And then we can choose to dispute it or come up with an alternative. All right. So that's one of the most powerful things that we can do. It takes some practice. Okay, so I do suggest that you have a play with it. Maybe involve other people in your bubble, and you can have a play with this and just practice it in relation to handling not just stress and anxiety, but other negative emotions as well. I've got a few others I'll just briefly run by you. Breathing is super, super powerful. If we breathe deeply in response to a situation, if we're finding that we're getting stressed or anxious or frustrated or angry, just taking a few deep breaths is an incredibly powerful technique. I won't go into the science behind it here, but just know that it works and give it a try, okay? Looking after our physical health is super important. I talked before about how stress is here to help us, and it's harmful only if we misuse it. We've got to find a way to use the energy that stress gives us. The stress response gives us a whole lot of energy and hormones specifically designed to help us fight our way out of a situation or run fast enough to get out of the situation. So it's very physical. So physical exercise is a great way to help our body process all of that chemistry, and so that we can get back to an even keel. So, yeah, I'm going to say it. Some regular cardiovascular exercise is a fantastic, beneficial way to help us to be able to handle stress much more effectively. Quality sleep's also really important, and good quality nutrition. So these things are easy to let go when we're under these periods of anxiety and when our normal routine has been disrupted. But whatever else happens, I'm encouraging you to prioritize a consistent, regular sleep routine, keeping consistent with cardiovascular exercise, and not just a gentle walk, but actually lifting your heart rate and keeping the good nutrition up. Another great irony, we're all living in our bubbles right now, but one of the things that makes us most resilient to stress, to change, to the ups and downs of life is quality relationships, social connection. There was actually a study done, it's still ongoing, called the Harvard Men's Study, which is one of the longest longitudinal studies of what it takes to live a great life. It's been going on for decades, and the people in the study are now towards the end of their lives. In fact, many of them have already passed on. And it was looking at, basically, what does it take to live a great life, to be successful? What are the things? One biggest takeaway from it, love is the answer. This is the number one thing that leads to longevity, professional success and financial success and happiness and good health, is the quality of our relationships, not just with our spouse, but with other people. So even if you can't reach out physically and be in the same place physically, it's very important while we're in our bubbles to keep those relationships with other people in your life going, keep the connection going, because it will actually help you to stay more resilient to stress, and it will help your immune system as well. So, and the last thing is getting into action. Our brains can only focus on one thing at a time. If we're actually doing something, and it can be something towards your business, it could be something around the house, just something that takes your concentration and focus, then your brain doesn't have the bandwidth to be anxious or worried about things. And so it helps us to stay more resilient. And when we get an action done, we also get the benefit, the satisfaction of having done it, and that creates momentum and a feeling of control. Okay. Now these things take practice, so it's worth playing with them. It might feel like you're exercising a new muscle to start with, but repetition really, really helps for them to come more easily to us. Just a couple of very quick notes before we go into questions. One is that structure is really important. Our brains love structure, and part of the reason why COVID is having such a big impact on people, it's not just because of the anxiety and worries around what's going to happen with the situation. We're also feeling displaced. Our normal routines and structures have been displaced. And so on a very unconscious level, that leaves our brains feeling a bit unsafe, because what's familiar is now no longer quite so familiar. So it's important to find ways to create some structure and consistency so that our brains can, set back to their set point and feel comfortable that we're safe. The picture says it all. Your daily routine matters. So finding a way to retain a sense of routine and a structure that's close to what's familiar will help us to be more resilient. And the last piece I wanted to talk with you about is rebuilding a sense of control. It's easy in this situation to go, I can't do anything because of. And all that does is it shuts our brains down. It tells our brain, don't bother looking for alternative ways of addressing this or alternative opportunities, because we can't. So our brain doesn't even try. Instead, what we want to do is ask ourselves open questions like, how can I in this situation do? How can I look after my staff? How can I look after my business? How can I adapt to the new situation? Or what can I do? Because when we ask open questions like that, our mind is going to go, oh, great, I'm on a mission to find the answer. And we'll start coming up with ideas. It opens us up instead of closing us down. And yes, the last piece is a bit of planning. Here's a simple little exercise to help us get back a sense of control over life and over our business, even when the environment's very unpredictable. I call it the locus of control exercise. Just take a piece of paper and list out everything that's taking up, that's cluttering up your mind, all of the frustrations, the worries, the anxieties, the things on the to-do list, everything. List it all out on a piece of paper, dump it out, and split it into two groups. What is the stuff I have direct control over? And with that, pick one of those things and start getting into action. And then with everything else is the stuff I don't have direct control over. It's the stuff that's outside my control. Okay? So if it's outside our control, why do we want to put our energy into focusing on it when we could actually be getting runs on the board with the stuff we can control, right? So for the things that are outside our control, and this is a skill, it takes a little bit of practice, but it's about actually list that out on a separate piece of paper. Acknowledge it all. I see you. I know you're there. I accept that you're there, but I don't have any control over you, so I'm going to let you go for now. You're going on the back burner. I have some clients who even like to take that piece of paper and burn it, to be honest. So those are some tools that you can use. Let's open up for some questions, Helen.
Great, thank you, Anna. That's some really excellent thoughts, but also some really practical tools to use as well. And I can see that there's been some good comments coming through as well. So you might want to have a quick look at those. That ABCD explanation. I wrote that down as you were talking, actually, because that's really interesting around understanding your beliefs. Can you just talk a little bit about the D? Because you said, was that for dispute? I didn't quite get that piece.
Yeah, it's disputing. That's right. So the D is once we can identify the belief. D is about acknowledging first that it is just a belief, and then disputing it. So we can have some fun with that. We can look for evidence that it's not true. We can look for other perspectives. We can go, but hey, look at this person over here. They're doing that, so it can't be true, right? A nice way to do it is think, well, if I had a friend who was telling me this, what would I share with them to help them to think from a different perspective, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I will, with the slides, I know there was a bit of an issue with those, so they will go up on the Facebook page.
Great.
So that people can have a look at those. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What other questions? Gosh, we've got some good questions there. So anything else there, Helen?
There's someone has put in, I can't see who, but thank you for your comment about giving yourself some time out and being quiet. And I think that's a really good comment, because certainly, there's some articles circulating about how stressful it is and how difficult it is to always be on computer-based engagement models like, live streams and Zoom and those sorts of things. And actually, it's really difficult on your brain, and, having some quiet time to actually get away and do something else, just away from the computer, actually.
Yeah, a technology detox is super, super important. The way our brains work is they actually love to have do nothing time. Our brains love it, rest time. And when we're hooked into technology, we've got all of this stuff downloading into us, and it doesn't actually give our brain to switch off cognitively. There's some really interesting research coming through recently, actually, on that, and on the importance of having not just time away from the screen, but literally do nothing time where we're being bored, where we're not thinking, we're not sort of doing something around the house and also listening to a podcast, which keeps our brain full. But our mind as a whole, it can't really do its job properly unless we give it a chance to process. And even when it processes, when it comes up with great strategic ideas, if we're not switched on and listening for that, we're going to miss it. So look, digital detox days are a fantastic thing. And I'm not just talking about the computers, switching off the smartphones for a bit, switching off the TV for a bit. Often people go, well, but I might miss something really important. It's like, actually, will the world really end if it takes 24 hours or even 4 hours for us to come back to that, so that I can just have some important refresh time? And the sleep and rest are absolutely vital for our resilience as well. Absolutely vital. I see there as well, someone also posted a comment about the importance not just of having a routine, but embracing a change mindset. And look, I couldn't agree more. If we are open and actually acknowledge that we have the power to respond and choose how we respond to life, and we can actually take control over our lives ourselves and have that kind of change mindset, a term that's often used as a growth mindset. This is actually, I can learn and grow and adapt. Then guess what? We can learn and grow and adapt. But it starts with actually allowing ourselves to believe it, because unless we believe it, it ain't going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Actually, it's really interesting. We were discussing on our own chamber meeting this morning the number of business owners and businesses that have got that that change mindset well and plugged in right now, and so many new products being manufactured just here in the Hutt Valley and wider, of course. But you know, we're just getting email after email of the very cool products that are going to be so useful for us from local businesses who've never had to think like this before, or we've never had this sort of environment. And so it's really inspiring and gives people confidence to see that lots of our businesses are really changing right now. And you know, I know of one that has never made a face visor before, but just 2 weeks ago they delivered 3,000 face visors from Wingate to our own DHB, so that our hospitals could have, our local hospital here in the Hutt Valley could have face protection and still continue to function. So, you know, that whole change mindset is very alive and well, and it's a very important part of our whole recovery.
It's absolutely vital. I mean, the thing I think that we all need to embrace is that when we go back to normal is going to be different from what we were experiencing in January, right? So those two questions which I shared around how can I and what can I are powerful. One that I love as well is whatever happens, and stuff happens in life. It does. Life has challenges, but whatever happens, if we can ask ourselves the question, where is the opportunity here? That's incredibly powerful. And what's so exciting is seeing the businesses who are actually embracing that and going, okay, in this situation, how do we choose to respond? What's the opportunity? And this is going to absolutely shift the way that we work together, which is so exciting. But within that, of course, we want to have and support our teams to have the resilience to adapt to change, because our brains resist change. There's a part of our brain that wants to keep us safe by keeping us in the same place. And that's why we have this kind of tension, I suppose, at the moment. Yeah. So I noticed someone there as well noted walking through the bush is a great way to be resilient. And look, absolutely beautiful comment. You know, there's some amazing science. We are so lucky to live where we do, because the science tells us that even just getting outside around green stuff, trees, grass, that kind of stuff, has a independent benefit for us in terms of both our resilience to stress and also our physical well-being. Just being around trees is good for you.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's a great comment.
Yeah, I agree. Yesterday afternoon, I went for a walk at Trentham Memorial Park, which is a stunning park and historically really important to Upper Hutt. And the sky was spectacular. The trees are all in colour, and the green grass. The place looks beautiful. And it was only 30 minutes, and I think I missed 5 phone calls and about 20 emails, and I don't know how many messages I missed as well. And actually, I just needed 30 minutes out just to go for a walk with my husband and our dogs, and it was very worthwhile, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And walk through the bush, and you know, you feel the breeze on your face and the sunshine on your back. It just changed your mindset.
Totally. And when you come back and deal with those calls, because I mean they're still there. They could wait. The world kept turning, right, Helen? I didn't notice it stopping.
No, it didn't.
So you're able to deal with those in a much more resourceful way. But also, it comes back to you know, giving our brain a chance to actually do its thing. Research shows that some of I think again this was a Harvard study. You know, the study was on when do we get our best, most innovative business ideas. And right there at the top was when we're not, as basically it was all when we're not working, when we stop. Driving was one, but when I'm on holiday or just out and about. These kinds
gardening.
of activities. Gardening's another great one, because it keeps our cognitive mind busy so that our creative mind can do its stuff. I just would like to note, someone shared this lovely quote, out of adversity comes opportunity. Sort of summarizes everything beautifully for us, doesn't it?
Yeah, fabulous. Okay, so thank you so much for everyone for all your comments and engaging in this conversation, and I thank you very much for opening up this discussion, because it's one that you know, it's easy to talk about wage subsidies, to be honest, and tax carryback schemes and all those sorts of things, but it's really good to start some discussion around our own mental well-being and our ability to function as business owners and dealing with stress, and because we all are experiencing it at different times of the day and different days of the week, etc. And it's not even just work stress, it's like trying to balance homeschooling and health and all those things as well. So it's really good to be able to start that sort of conversation and to acknowledge some of those challenges that we face at an individual level. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us, Anna. Thank you for everyone who's joined us today. And can I ask you to also share this Hutt Valley COVID-19 business support group with your friends and your business colleagues, and of course our Hutt Valley Chamber Facebook group, and hutvalleynz.com has got a lot of resources around COVID, and of course our website hvchamber.org.nz, which is actually fully devoted to COVID now. It's a very substantial website with everything that we are finding every hour of the day. So doing all we can to support the business community. Thank you, Anna, for your time. Thank you for being a bronze partner of the Chamber.
You're welcome.
And is there anything else you want to add?
Absolutely. I will just say my apologies, I had a slight technical issue with sharing the slides there. So they will go up and be available for you as a summary. And I've also included my contact details there. So if there's any aspects of what we've talked about that you'd just like to explore further, you're welcome to reach out. I'm providing there's support in whatever way I can to people as we go through this. And on that as well, one thing, if anyone wants to expand on this, particularly around the money worries, I've teamed up with another expert to do a free online coaching session on that as well, with some additional strategies. So if anyone's interested in tapping into that too, the slides have my email address. Drop me a quick email and I'll be very happy to make that resource available to you as well. I just want to thank everyone for all of these awesome comments that we're getting, and I do suggest everyone sort of have a look through the comments on Facebook too, because there are some great additional pieces being added in there. So thank you to everybody for being here and for your input. It's been great. Thank you, Helen.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much, and have a great afternoon, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.